One Piece never forgets about its characters. It's a sentiment I've heard many times, and to be fair, it's true in almost all cases. Unlike other shows where past villains and allies get thrown out like trash after they play their respective role, One Piece follows up on almost all characters through cover stories and reappearances. But there exists a few characters that we haven't seen or heard about in years. That makes us wonder what happened to them and if we'll ever see them again. Let's look at the characters One Piece fans are dying to see return to the story. Let's start with the character who in my view is the most forgotten of them all, Captain Kuro. Did you know that Kuro has not been featured in any canon material since he got defeated by Luffy? We got a short scene in the anime of him reacting to Luffy's bounty, if you could even call it a reaction, cause bro just sat there unfazed. But this scene was only included in the anime, making it non-canon. This is kinda crazy when you realize his first mate Django got a whole cover story and many follow-ups in the story. For a long time I thought Oda might have genuinely forgotten about him, or at least didn't want to draw him ever again. I mean, I would understand that. If you watched this video of mine, you know I'm not Kuro's biggest fan. But then all of a sudden we got this random cover for a chapter, though it has to be said that this is not part of a cover story or anything. This makes me wonder why Oda chose to follow up on almost every early villain in some capacity except him. Maybe Kuro finally found that peaceful life he was looking for. Or maybe Oda has been planning something big for him all along. I gotta admit, even if I think his plan in Syrup Village was incredibly stupid, a Kuro return would still be high. But it would be nothing compared to if our beloved Bentham, aka Bon Clay, made his return. Man, there's no other character like him. The very first time he met the Straw Hats, they immediately became friends, and he even got moved to tears. Then he played the role of an antagonist in Alabasta, but he never felt nearly as cruel as the other members of Baroque Works. After his fight with Sanji, he didn't feel hatred, but rather admiration for Sanji's show of respect. And when the conflict was all settled, he lured away the Marines so that the Straw Hats could escape. No wonder Luffy got excited to see him in Impel Down. And in that arc, he continued to fight for Luffy, all in the name of friendship. And in the end, he made the ultimate sacrifice. He stayed behind when the others escaped, changed his appearance to Magellan to open the gates of justice. Luckily, he somehow survived. He is now the new queen of NAKAMA land in the secret level of Impel Down. Me and so many other fans want nothing more than to see him return one day. Not just for a cameo, but to stand alongside the Straw Hats again. Maybe as part of the Grand Fleet. After all the sacrifices he's made, Bon deserves his reunion. And from one legend trapped in Impel Down to another who actually escaped it, Shiki the Golden Lion. Back in Roger's era, this man commanded the largest pirate fleet in the entire world. He wasn't just another pirate, he was Roger's biggest rival, a former member of the Rocks Pirates, and the very first person to ever break out of Impel Down. A pirate so dangerous that Garp and Sengoku had to team up to take him down. Shiki's ambition was world domination, and you can't really call him delusional, because he had the power to back it up. His devil fruit allowed him to make entire islands float, and after his escape, he disappeared to prepare a massive plan that would, quote, show the world the fear of pirates. But the crazy part is, we still don't know what happened to him after that. We've seen time and time again that age doesn't mean weakness in One Piece. Look at Rayleigh, Garp, or Sengoku. So who's to say that Shiki isn't still out there, waiting for the right moment to make his move? With the world in chaos and the final saga underway, a return from the Golden Lion might change everything. A while ago, I told you my dog became a pirate. For anyone new, her name is Nova, and her bounty starts at just 1 berry. But for every single person that subscribes, her bounty goes up by 1. Last time, her bounty sat at 28 berries, but she's been busy since. She just found herself a new crewmate, Brody the Beaver. Thanks to you guys, her bounty is now sitting at 147 berries. If you want to help her climb the ranks, hit that subscribe button and raise your bounty even higher. Next up, we got one of the most mysterious characters in all of One Piece, Bogard. Garp's right-hand man, the silent swordsman who somehow managed to become insanely popular despite doing basically nothing. Yet there's a whole fanbase that love him. I understand them though. He's just so effortlessly cool. He's always just there, standing behind Garp, and that's all he needed to become an icon. The man just oozes presence. It's actually hilarious because I'm not even sure if Oda knows how much people love this guy. He's just been drawing him in the background of scenes. Meanwhile, the fandom built an entire mythology around him. But now, with Garp being captured on Pirate Island, the question is louder than ever. Will Bogard finally make a move of his own? We know he was there at God Valley, at Water 7, always in the background of history. What if this is the moment he finally steps into the spotlight? Let's bring it back to some nostalgia. The Krieg Pirates. Don Krieg, Jin, and my glorious king himself, Pearl. If you haven't already joined the fastest growing agenda in the One Piece community, join the Pearl agenda today. Spread Pearl propaganda everywhere you go. Reddit, TikTok comments, YouTube comments, everywhere. We need you. We actually saw all three of them recently, in what might be one of the most random but hype cameos in the entire story. They showed up on Pirate Island, just casually chilling among monsters like Blackbeard's crew. How did they even get there? My theory, Pearl carried them. I really want to know what happened to him after the Baratie arc. Krieg was once hyped up as the ruler of the East Blue, and Jin was one of the first antagonists to ever show real emotion and loyalty. He spared Sanji, stood up to his own captain, and nearly died for it. The dude had depth, and Pearl is the greatest character in all of fiction. Seeing them again opened the door for something wild. Imagine if they actually come back to the story. They've obviously grown stronger. They might have been early game villains, but that cameo made one thing clear. Oda hasn't forgotten about them, and neither have we. After reminiscing about some OG East Blue villains, it's time to move on from nostalgia to pure hype. Because if there's one return that will send me and a large part of the fandom into meltdown, it's Charlotte Katakuri. Katakuri isn't just another villain. He's the rival that earned Luffy's respect and the audience's. Their fight in Whole Cake Island wasn't good versus evil. It was about pride, honor, and what it means to chase your own path. The way Katakuri fell, not out of hatred, but out of mutual respect, gave him this aura that no other antagonist in One Piece really has. And now, with Big Mom gone, there's a power vacuum in Toto Land. Who else could fill it but Katakuri? Sparrow? I don't think so. Katakuri has got the strength, the loyalty and the respect of his crew. Not to mention, the fans love him. I can really see a world where Katakuri and Luffy fight side by side in the final saga. It just makes sense. Luffy changed him, and Katakuri is the type of guy who doesn't forget something like that. Imagine him showing up in the final war, silent as ever, and then just appearing next to Luffy when things get serious. No words, the two just standing shoulder to shoulder. I think a tear just ran down my leg. Moving on, let's talk about two villains who feel destined for a comeback. Gecko and Don Quixote Doflamingo. At first glance, these two couldn't be more different. One is a lazy necromancer who peaked 20 years ago, and the other is a fallen psycho king. But right now, they might be walking the same path, straight toward Cross Guild. Let's start with Moria. It being implied that Moria is actually part of the Kozuki clan tells us that Oda has got more plans for him. When we last saw him, he'd invaded Pirate Island looking for Absalom, only to find out Blackbeard and his crew had killed him. That's the kind of moment that either breaks a man, if Moria can be broken any further, or pushes him to change sides. And we already know Moria escaped that island, meaning he's still out there, broken but alive. Cross Guild, a rising power full of ex-warlords, feels like the only place a guy like him fits. And then there's Doflamingo. You can lock him up, but you can't contain this man. He's sitting in Impel Down right now, reading about the world tearing itself apart. The celestial dragons are scared, the government is cracking, and Cross Guild's putting bounties on marines. That's Doflamingo's dream world. He has stated that he knows a national treasure that could shake the world if revealed. There's no way he's gonna rot in a prison till the story ends. Cross Guild is becoming this gathering of fallen legends, and if Moria and Doffy both end up there, that's not just a faction anymore. That's a declaration of war. The moment anyone asks a question about returns in One Piece, one name constantly shows up: God Enel. I recently did a poll on my channel asking you guys which character you want to see return the most, and Enel crushed all opposition. Because Enel isn't just a villain people want back. He's the one whose return could change everything. Once upon a time, this man was a literal god in the sky, the ruler of Skypiea, punishing anyone who dared to look at him wrong. The thing about Enel is that he was never really defeated in spirit. Luffy might have punched him out of the clouds, but Enel still won. He made it to the moon, or as he calls it, the Fairy Verth. And what he found there? An ancient, forgotten civilization, and the truth that the Skypians and Birkans all came from space. Yeah, Oda really dropped that in a cover story like it was nothing. Enel went from a tyrant god king of a sky island to a tyrant god king of the moon, commanding an army of ancient robots. And for all we know, this technology could be more advanced than the robots on Earth. And that's where he's been, just waiting. Now imagine that same Enel returning to the world below, at a time when everything is falling apart, ancient weapons waking up, and the void century finally coming to light. Enel represents something different from every other villain. He's not bound by earthly power or politics. He's beyond it. He's the villain who could actually tie One Piece's biggest mysteries together. The ancient civilizations, the technology of the void century. If he ever descends again, if those clouds light up, it's not just the return of a character, it's the return of God. And after everything we've seen from him, you can't tell me he doesn't still think this world deserves to be judged. That's why Enel isn't just the most anticipated return in One Piece, he's the one that could change the story forever. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love this one even more, in which I broke down the richest characters in One Piece, and trust me, some of them will surprise you.